Coming up on this episode of Murky Seb's Wild Underwater Adventures. On today's adventure, we are continuing to explore the rivers around the once beautiful mountainous region of Maleny, which unfortunately has lost almost all of its beautiful forest so that cattle owners could make more money. Maleny is located 1 hour north of Brisbane, and there are still a few pockets of wonderful rainforest in the areas nearby that haven't yet been as decimated of their beauty as Maleny, and we are visiting one of those areas today. A rarely explored creek connected to the local water supply, and this dam is named after the local Aboriginal name for the area, Baroon, and one of the creeks nearby is one of the few places left in the wild where the Mary cod still naturally occur. Obviously, finding a Mary cod in the wild is my ultimate goal, but will we get lucky enough to find one today? On our way to the potential Mary cod habitat, we walked past enormous termite mounds, giant fallen trees. The further we walked, the more the landscape changed, becoming more and more rainforesty. And it wasn't long until we noticed this little thing moving about on a branch, so I stopped to investigate what it could be. And on closer inspection, I could see what looked like a little nest underneath a fallen palm frond, balancing precariously on a wispy, thin tree branch. And making this nest was a very small bird known as the brown honeyeater. The brown honeyeater spends most of its day flying around flowering trees and shrubs because the honeyeater finds the nectar of flowering plants irresistible. But their diet also consists of the insects that they are able to catch, either on the ground or trees, and sometimes they catch them in mid-flight. The honeyeater will hover above small flowers while eating their precious nectar, but if a small branch is present, they will also rest on that whilst feasting. Because of their diet, a large portion of their day revolves around finding nectar. These little birds are seasonally nomadic across their local area in response to the flowering plants. When it comes time for breeding, which occurs twice a year, no courtship displays have been observed, but the males will sing more frequently from a high vantage point to get their song heard by as many females as possible. Upon finding a female, the two honeyeaters will take turns making a small round nest, woven from sticks, bark, grass, and if present, they will also use hair from cows or other animals, which will all be stuck together with spider webs lined with soft plants. The male will stand guard while the female is busy building the nest. But now it's time to leave these beautiful birds and continue on toward the potential Mary cod habitat. And on the way I found mysterious species of lichens and fungi that I stopped to investigate. What we are seeing is kind of like the fruit of a vast fungal network capable of distributing their spores over a very large distance, either by the wind or from animals eating them. And finally we reach the river. Instantly we noticed the movement everywhere we looked within the river, which made me very excited. So I got my camera out and into the water as quickly as possible, and I was blown away by what I saw. We were greeted by hundreds of crimson spotted rainbows and hardyheads. The crimson spotted rainbowfish was the original species of fish to be given the name rainbow fish. They were given this name because in 1927, a bunch of the crimson spotted rainbows were sent from Queensland to Germany by steamship, which were then bred by the Berlin Aquarium and became a very popular exhibit due to their natural beauty. The man who sent the rainbow fish was named Amadeus Rudel, and he said, "I was astonished at the beauty of this fish the first time I saw it. It was like a living rainbow. There is no other fish which can compare with its beauty." They range from southern Queensland to northern New South Wales. Crimson spotted rainbowfish are sexually dimorphic, meaning they have a big difference between the males and females, with the males being very colourful, having a mix of blue, yellow, green, red, black and white on their large bodies, when compared to the much smaller females who don't tend to have anywhere near as vibrant colours. I have encountered what I thought to be the most colourful crimson spotted rainbow fish I would ever see when filming for my documentary called A Very Mysterious Fish. But I think it's safe to say the rainbows from this river are even more colourful and beautiful than those ones were. This species just keeps getting more and more amazing each time I see them. I can't imagine anybody getting sick of encountering this wonderful fish. They are quite common in the rivers and streams of southeast Queensland, and it's always a delight to encounter them. And this little fish is a Cox's gudgeon, which are found from South Queensland to southern Victoria, up to an altitude of 700 metres. They are able to climb waterfalls by rotating their pectoral fins to create suction, allowing them to scale almost any natural barrier. Unfortunately, dams and other human-made obstructions result in this species becoming less and less common. They are a very efficient predator, eating anything that will fit in their mouth, from small crustaceans to fish and insects. They are well known for their ability to eat invasive fish such as gambusia, which are like guppies. In the background we can also see some long-armed shrimp gently grazing on the microorganisms and algae growing on the rocks. This is only a small Cox's gudgeon, but they get almost 2 or 3 times the size of this one. Off to the side, I noticed something big swimming around and I couldn't tell what it was from above. I hoped maybe it was one of the rare Mary cod, so I put my camera over and managed to capture this footage of a silver perch, which are not native to this area. Amazingly, the government decided to release a bunch of these, knowing they would disrupt the fragile ecosystem and potentially outcompete the species that lived here for millions of years. Incredible. But we will take a further look at the silver perch in the next episode. Now it's time to get back to the rainbows and hardyheads. These fish swimming alongside the rainbows are most likely an unspeckled hardyhead. But another species called the fly-speckled hardyhead, which typically has distinct speckles along their body, can also be missing their speckles, so it makes them hard to identify, but both have very similar lives. The unspeckled hardyhead like to feed on small insects, mosquito larvae, and tiny crustaceans. They range from Maryborough in Queensland to northern New South Wales, and throughout the Murray-Darling River system down to Victoria and South Australia. But they have become increasingly rare in their once abundant southern habitats due to the destruction caused by farming and introduced species outcompeting them. Very little research has been done into these wonderful creatures, but between October and February they spawn, with the females laying up to 100 eggs in adhesive strands on rocks and branches. I was really pleased to encounter these amazing unspeckled hardyheads, as I've never seen them in the wild before, even though they range all around the areas that we've been exploring. And I was so blown away by the colours on these crimson spotted rainbow fish. They seemed just as curious at investigating my camera as I was at investigating their habitat. We will be taking a look at the rest of this creek in an upcoming episode because there was a lot to have a look at. The rainbow fish breeds sometime between September and December when the water is around 24 to 29 degrees Celsius, just before the summer rain arrives. Spawning begins just before it gets dark, under the disappearing spring sun or just after that spring sun comes up early in the morning. And the female will lay up to 10 eggs 3 or 4 times per day, which are then fertilized by the male. They stick their long strands of eggs to surrounding aquatic plants and the roots of whatever's growing alongside the riverbank, which will hatch between 5 and 9 days after being fertilized. Then the babies grow up relatively quickly and can themselves begin to reproduce in around a year's time. They typically group in schools of about 30 to 50 fish and often are found with other species of fish joining in their group, swimming together. They love to eat plant matter, insects, mosquito larvae, crustaceans, and other tiny creatures that can fit in their small mouths. There is a similar species of rainbow called Splendida, which is capable of interbreeding with the crimson spotted rainbows, and the two species habitats meet around Gladstone in Queensland, with the Splendida only occurring further north and the crimson spotted rainbows only occurring further south. The Splendida are another incredible fish which I am determined to track down and film in their natural habitat. But it's going to take quite a long journey to get to their home, which we will hopefully get to do in an upcoming adventure. So I hope you stick around for that, and I hope you enjoyed seeing these wonderful species in their natural habitats. The second part of today's adventure is coming out soon, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you on our next adventure. Until then, keep it murky.